When ordering food online, I usually skip stores without pictures. But even when they have, as soon as you need to choose options, you're not sure what you will end with. Especially me living in Japan and having no idea what I'm doing. That's where Wawa Eats come to the rescue, the first mobile app with a 3D sandwich configurator. To make this mobile app, we will use React Native with Expo and the React Fiber. We will create the project from scratch together, and I will explain step by step how to achieve it. Before starting, if you want to learn everything you need to know about React Fiber, I created the ultimate guide to 3D web development, a project-based course going from zero to hero, link in the description. In this video, a golden ticket is hidden. The first one to find Wawa Wonka will get the course for free. A good reason to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell button. Time to create our React Native project. To create our project, we need to go to React Fiber documentation and head to the React Native section. From there, we can find the command we need, which is npx create expo app. In a new terminal, paste it, hit enter, enter your app name. I will name it Wawa Eats. And it's creating the resources you need for your project. When it's finished, it tells you the commands you can run to start using it, cd Wawa Eats to enter into the folder, and run Android, iOS, or web. So you can simply, instead of doing cd, file, open folder, and open your folder. To start your project, you just have to do npm start, and then you will have all the indication on how to debug it. And you have a QR code that you can scan on your mobile device. Before scanning it, or maybe the link redirects you, but let's install it by ourselves, open your App Store or Play Store, search for Expo Go, and you will find this application here, install it, and then you can scan the code. Open the camera of your phone, scan the code from your screen and open in Expo Go. You have that screen that will be displayed, and this is your app. Open up app.js to start working on your app. Let's modify it a bit. You can go into app.js. Here you have the text that we just see. You can say hello world and add a default button from React Native. Title is equal to press me. Now, if we go back to the application, we see hello world and press me. Instead of running it directly on your Android device or iOS device, you can run it on an Android simulator. Unfortunately, React Fiber will crash on iOS simulator, so you will need a device if you want to test on iOS. For Android, you can download Android Studio here. Then once you have installed it, go to More Actions, Virtual Device Manager. Here you can create new devices. You have the list between different phones. Me, I choose Pixel 8 Pro, and then you can start it with the play button. Once it is running, you can go back to your project, and from here you can press the A key. It will automatically build it and run it on your Android running emulator. And you can see the button is different because the button component we are using is using the native button from Android or iOS. You have the list here of the keys you can use to interact with your React Native app. The one you might often use is press R to reload the app. If you press it, it will reload the app on the emulator or your device. Because we will often see our splash screen when we reload the app, we can modify it by going to Assets. And here, if you want to change the icon of your app, you change Adaptive Icon. Same for Icon and Splash. You can just open them in your favorite image editor. So you keep the size and the properties of it, edit it, and save it. Once you have done it, you can replace the different files. And here is what I ended it with. I kept the transparency and just added Wawa Eats logo. Now, if I press R, I can see my splash screen when the app is loading, and then I have my app. Now let's see how to add React Fiber to our React Native app. Let's head back to React Fiber documentation, React Native section, and we need to do Expo install Expo GL. We can stop our server and paste it. If you don't have Expo, just run npx expo. Then we need to install Three and React Fiber. But let's get rid of npm and use yarn instead. This is a matter of preference, but it is very slow npm compared to yarn. So you can remove the package log.json. Oh, and first maybe also remove the node models. Remove rf node models, then run yarn to install the dependencies, because automatically we had a package JSON created. And then we need to do yarn add 3 React 3 fiber, and we will also use React 3 dry. They also tell us that if we want to use GLTF files or texture image file, we need to change the metroconfig.js. But we don't have one, so we go to Expo documentation and we see how to customize our metroconfig file. So we just run npx expo customize metroconfig.js. The installation here is finished, so we can run it. It's generating the file for us. Let's open it and add the configuration. Instead of doing like the documentation to set the source extension and asset extension directly, I decided to create an array with the different extension, to loop through them, and to add them if they don't already exist in the configuration. Same for the GLB and PNG file. That way we are sure we don't get rid of anything that was existing, and we don't add it again if it's already here. Now everything should be ready, so we can add our canvas inside our React Native view. So in the app we have a main view here containing some components. We can add our canvas on top here. So we'll be using canvas, but be careful when you do the imports, because it will tell you canvas at React 3 fiber. So here you have the React 3 fiber version. But when you are using React 3 fiber with the React Native, all components can be found if you do /native. So you always add that path, so you are sure all the compatibility things have been done inside the component. But to be honest, some components are not compatible with the React Native, and we just don't use it today, or I will explain to you what we need to do. On our canvas, let's set the camera position and field of view, and let's close it. Inside, we can add a background color, and inside, let's add a mesh containing a box geometry with a basic material hot pink. If we look at it currently, we can see anything because of the default style of the view. On the main container style, let's get rid of the align item center and justify content center. And now we are able to see our React 3 fiber component inside React Native. We don't have any space here for our component, so let's fix it. To organize a bit our code, we will get rid of it inside a new component. So let's create a new folder. Let's name it components. And inside, we'll create our component named bottom UI. Use a better word if you have any idea. Export const bottom UI. And inside, we will return a view. And be careful because you have a view from React 3 dry. And what we want is React Native component. So it's a view from React Native. And inside, we'll put what we had. So the text and the button. Don't forget to import. Again, you have one from dry, but you want the React Native one. Same for the button, only it exists in React Native. And for the style, I will do inline style. Of course, use your preferred way of styling components. For the moment, let's just add a padding of 20. Go back to the app and import next to the canvas, the bottom UI. We can see we have our Hello World and Press Me, which have a bit more space. But let's see what we have on iOS. Here you can see we have the Press Me that is very colliding with the bottom thing they made in the recent iPhones. So if I change the background color of the view, let's put it black for now, you will see that our view is behind that dot on the bottom. It's not conflicting yet, but it's too close to the bottom. To avoid this, what we need to do is use a safe area view component from React Native. And by default, it will add space on the top, left, right, and bottom based on the status bar or this bar on the bottom. But here we want just to have the padding on the bottom. So we'll say edges is equal to bottom. And if we look, you can see we have that extra space that is created by safe area view, and we can even change the color if we wanted to. But now the button isn't conflicting with that bottom bar. This is something very important when you are doing mobile development to handle different type of device with those kind of bars. We can get rid of the background color. To have a simple global store to handle our order, let's use Zustand State Management Library. To install it, we need to run yarn add Zustand or npm if you are still using it. Open the terminal, stop your server, run the command, and you can directly restart the server and hide the terminal. We will create our store in a hook, so let's create a new folder named hooks. And our hook, we want it to be named use Sandwich.js because we don't need React components. Now be prepared to be hungry. We will create our different ingredients. In a dictionary, with bread, lettuce, mushroom, tomato, cheese, and so on. They all contain the price and an icon, so we'll display it in our UI. Bacon, patty. Now let's create our store. We'll name it use sandwich. We create from Zustand, and we have access to a set method to update our state. Our state, what it will contain is the ingredients. We will start with 2 ingredients. A bread, we will add automatically an ID of 0, and another bread with the ID 1. So we are sure we always have 2 slices of bread in our sandwich. We are defining ID and not directly the name of the ingredient. So when we will have React keys to re-render our components, we are sure it is related to the correct ingredients and we don't have force re-render. Then we create our total, so we are able to have the final price of our sandwich when adding different ingredients. We could calculate it dynamically, but it's easier to do it when we add and remove an ingredient. Then we create our add ingredient. It takes an ingredient as a parameter. And what we do is we update the total with the price of the new ingredient. And inside our ingredients, we add all the previous ingredient minus 1, so minus the last slice of bread. Then we add our new ingredient. We defined its ID with the number of ingredients we have. So because we have 2 slices of bread, it will start from 2. And then we add the last slice of bread. So it's a new one, but it's keeping the same ID, so it will not re-render it. And then just the opposite for remove ingredient. We set the total to the previous total minus the item we remove. And we just filter our ingredients array with the previous ingredient we are removing. Now I'm sure you want to display that sandwich, so let's create a component inside components that we will name sandwich.jsx export const sandwich. What we will need to have is the list of ingredients, so we get it from use sandwich. And from here, it really is a React Fiber component. So you can just return a group from Three.js, and it's fine. It's the way you are used to create component using a React Fiber. Let's go inside our app. Let's replace our mesh with our sandwich that we just created. Now we can start preparing our 3D ingredients. This is the model I found to customize our sandwich, to have all the ingredients available. So it's named Sandwich Assembly from Hari Charalambus. Sorry if the pronunciation is not the best. I will put the link in the description. Then to prepare our different ingredients to be ready to use in our project, what I did is remove the big sandwich that was here, then select all the ingredients, object, set origin, and origin center of mass of surface. So you can see every item is centered perfectly. You can see the orange dot, which is its center. So if I select another one, it's centered based on itself because we want to have each ingredient individually. Instead of exporting them one by one by doing file export and GLB, I'm using a Blender extension named batch export. So you can put the directory of your project, format GLB GLTF. You can use preset, for example, if you have a compression preset, but with React Native, don't use the compression, it won't work. So just disable it, apply modifiers, be sure that location, rotation, and scale are set to the default value. So every object, even if they are positioned anywhere on your scene, for example, -23, when it will export it, it will be at 0. So you can just use it from 0 and you will have the bread at 0. I put all the ingredients inside assets. I create a new folder named models and then drag and drop if you want from my repository or from your export. Here it is. And now we have all the different ingredients. Now, before creating our ingredient component, let's just use one of the models we created. So GLTF from dry, but be sure that you manually add native. The source is equal to /assets /models/bread_slice.glb. And if we try it, first we have an error because it was trying to load the file from the assets. So we need to add a suspense around so it doesn't crash with React Native. To make it simply, we can add it into our app and wrap our sandwich within a suspense component. Then we have a new error, could not load the file at this path. This is not because the path is wrong, it's because with React Native, you are not using directly the URL as the path to the file. To get the path, you need to do import of the name you want from the path of the file. And then in the source, you use that path, the bread. And now we have our slice of bread, which is small, but at least we are rendering our GLTF model inside our React Native app. Instead of doing it here, we will create all the paths inside our use sandwich on top of the file. We load all of them, and then from each ingredient, we'll add source, and we'll pass the path here. So lettuce, source is lettuce, and so on. Once you have finished, a good thing to do is to avoid that you have slow issues when you load a new file we didn't load before, is to preload all the GLTF. So we get all the keys from the ingredients, so bacon, patty, and so on. For each, so we get access to the ingredient, we use gltf.preload, and we preload the ingredient. Be very careful, use gltf from dry, but then /native. Now we are ready to create our ingredient component, ingredient.jsx, export const ingredient. What we will need is the ingredient itself, so we have all the information and the rest of the props if we want to change the position. We can return a group containing the rest of the props and our gltf file from dry and with the correct source from the ingredients we have in use sandwich. Now, before customizing it, let's go to our sandwich component and let's add our ingredients. So we loop through all the ingredients, .map. We'll have the ingredients and the index of it. And we will have the ingredient components. For the key, we'll be using ingredient.id, and we will also add ingredient.name. Then we assign the ingredient. So ingredient is equal to ingredient. And for the position y, we'll be using the index multiplied by a constant we will create. So let's name it ingredient spacing. We can set its value here to 0.2. And so far we have 2 slices of bread, but they are way too small. So let's adjust it. Inside the ingredients, we will create 2 variables, ingredient scale, which is 3, and ingredient scale y with 5. We apply it on our GLTF, and we have our slice of bread that looks way better, but still it's a bit too thin. But because the scale y is good for all the other ingredients, we will make it special only for the bread. What we can do is inside our scale y, we will add if ingredient.name is equal to bread, then we will add 5, if not 0. And we will need some parentheses to this. Fine, now we have a nice slice of bread. Let's create the UI to be able to customize our sandwich. Go to our bottom UI component to customize it. We will replace everything we have so far. Let's add some elements. So we create a view to be able to place 2 items horizontally. We have the title, the name of our restaurant, La Sandwicherie, and next to it, some stars. I'm just using emoji instead of icon or images. Then below, we add some description of our restaurant, fresh and delicious sandwiches made with love. Then we create a view with a small height and the background color to be used as a separator. Then some instructions showing you the price. Your creation is the starting price of the sandwich without any customization, so only the 2 slices of bread. And then compose your sandwich by adding ingredients. This is what we have so far. It will look the same on iOS and Android for this part. Now let's add the different button to choose the ingredients. Because we want our ingredients to scroll horizontally, we will add a scroll view with the prop horizontal. It's the same that horizontal is equal to true. Then we will loop through all the ingredients and we will render a view inside. And inside that view with a padding of 10, we will add a button component. We could use the button component, but it looks different on iOS and Android and it's not very customizable. So instead, we will create our own custom component. First, we can clean a bit here, close others, and in components, let's create our awesome button.jsx. For our button, we will create it with a title, then a color for the text, a background color, but we set some default value when we don't want to set them, and if it's bold or not. Then an on-press callback, so we know when someone pressed the button. Then we return a touchable opacity. This is a component that when we will press it, we will see it fade in and fade out. Well, it's more fade out and fade in. Then we add the onPress, so it will call the parent. Inside it, we put a view that will be the container of our button, the box of the button, and inside the text with the title of our button. Now inside bottom UI, for each ingredient, we can use our awesome button component. For the title, what we will do is we will display the icon and the price of the ingredient. We are using capitalized first letter for the ingredient name, so we'll need to create that method. And then on press, we'll call add ingredient from our use sandwich. So let's have access to them. Const add ingredient is equal use sandwich. And let's define our capitalized first letter. In a big project, I would create a utils function with a separate file, but here it's fine. Now, if we open our app on Android or iOS, you can see we have a scrolling area here, and we can click on the button and it will add the different ingredients to our sandwich. But still we can fine-tune this scroll view here. So if we scroll just a bit, you can see it is truncated here, while it could go to the edge of the screen. To do this, we need to go to our scroll view and add some margin left of -20 and margin right of -20. Why 20? Because our main container has a padding of 20. Now, if we look, it's fine at the default state because there is a padding in the view of 10. But then if we scroll a bit, you can see it's going to the edge of the screen. It's not truncated anymore. And if we go to the end, it's working fine too. One last thing that we can avoid is the scroll bar here when we start scrolling. It's up to you to keep it or not. But the property is show horizontal scroll indicator and set it to false. So now if you scroll, it's nice. Before adding the prices of the ingredient here in 3D, we can add an add to cart button with the total price. So just below the scroll view, you can add an awesome button with the right title, add to cart, the color, background color, and bold. The total, we get it from the use sandwich. So let's do the same, const total is equal to use sandwich. And now we have our nice add to cart button. Let's add the pricing for each ingredient. So go to sandwich. First, we want to know if we show the pricing or not, because by default, the 2 slices of bread are included, the 2 first one. So we'll add a show price based on if the index is 0 or if it's the last index. Then we will need to handle it in the ingredient. So show price. And next to our GLTF, we will say if we are showing the price, we'll add a suspense component for when it is loading the font. We'll add a group. When we click on it, it will stop propagation. So if we click on 2 at the same time, it will just remove one ingredient and then remove ingredient from use sandwich. We will connect it later. Inside, we'll add a plane. So it will be a larger zone to be able to click on it. And we add the text with the ingredient name and a X just to show a little cross next to the ingredient price. Before speaking more about text 3D, let's load the remove ingredient from use sandwich. Don't forget to do the import. And first, I try to use text because you can display 2D text inside the 3D, but it's not working with the React Native. It's using some DOM elements and we don't have access to this context. But good news, the text 3D component is working. So import the one from native and you will need the font. And again, you will need a font path that you will do with an import. What I did is I went to Google Fonts, downloaded Poppins font, but for text 3D, you need your font to be in typeface format. So you can use facetype.js to convert your font. So you can use choose file and use it and convert it. More information about this in my course. Then in assets, you can create a font folder, drag and drop your file inside it, and import the font path inside the ingredient. Don't forget if you have import that are missing. And we now have the prices next to the ingredient. And if we press on it, it removed it. And here the price is not recalculated. This is due to an error in my remove ingredient. It's not state ingredient of ingredient name, but directly ingredient name. Now let's try it again. If we add some lettuce, mushroom, we have the right amount and it's decreasing when we remove it. Perfect. Now let's handle the add to cart button. Inside our use sandwich, we can add added to cart state. And then we create a new method, set added to cart, and we'll just set the value to what you want. We will make it happen in bottom UI. So we need to have access to add to cart value. I think it's added to cart, and set added to cart. It's equal to use sandwich, and we will return an array containing added to cart and set added to cart. So it looked like a traditional state. Then on our add to cart button in the bottom, we'll do onPress set added to cart to true. But now we will render two different bottom UIs. So we will go just after the awesome button, we will close a fragment, and we will open one before the view containing the title, so here. And what we will do is if we add it to cart, we will render something, but otherwise we will render this fragment that we just created. So we can go below, after the fragment, fine. And now when we added something to cart, let's see what we display. When it's added to cart, we'll simply render a view containing a text with the total, an information telling us that Wawa Sensei will directly deliver it to your home, and a button to cancel the order. Let's try it. We can add ingredients, add to cart, and now we still have the prices. We should hide them. But you can see you have the total, you can cancel the order and go back to edit mode. And because the bottom is smaller, you can see the 3D view is getting bigger, but it's a nice effect, so we can keep it. To hide the price on the ingredients, we can go on here. We already have a show price, but here it's a bit different because we don't want to reload it. So instead, on the group, we'll add visible is equal to we are not in added to cart. So we need to get added to cart from use sandwich. Let's try it, and now it disappears nicely. To add the final touch, let's add animations when there are new ingredients and when we add our sandwich to the cart. First thing we can do is around our 3D model to add a float component. It will create some nice movement, but if we do it now, it's a bit too much and they are conflicting with each other. So you can try with different value. I made a very small range, and when it's added to cart, I disable the range. So it go back to the initial position. You can adjust the speed and the rotation intensity. Now we have that nice movements, but it's not conflicting with each other. But the more we add ingredients, the less visible it is, so we can center our sandwich. To do this, it's pretty simple. Inside sandwich, we can change the position Y to minus the number of total item divided by 2. And now our sandwich is centered. But when we add it to cart, we want the items to be way closer and to see the final appearance of our sandwich. To do this, we can create a new one, which is named ingredient spacing final. And we need to know if we add it to cart or not from use sandwich. And we will create an ingredient spacing variable, which will be equal to, if we add it to cart, it will be the final. If it's not, it will be the normal one. And then we just have to replace them here and here. So now if we add to cart, we have the final image of our sandwich. But here it's not animated, so it jumped directly. Let's animate it with React Spring. React Spring is a library for DOM elements, but it also contains a section for React 3 Fiber to be able to animate our React 3 Fiber components. We can go in the terminal, yarn add @React Spring /3, then start again our project. And the animation, it will be inside our ingredient. So first, we need to import two things: animated to make animated component, and uSpring, the hook to control the animation. What we will want to animate is the final group. So here we will do animated.group, and we'll be able to use animation, Spring animation on that group. First, we want to animate our position Y based on the prop we have. So for this, we create a position Y is equal to uSpring based on the position Y we have. We won't customize the animation, but you can use additional parameter to create a custom Spring animation. And we will also play with the scale of our ingredient, going from 0.5 to 1 when it appears. Then we just need to plug it to our group, scale, and position Y. But if we try it, we have cannot call the manual advancements of RAS with frame loop, and this is spamming us. And if you search on Google, you will find that it's because of a conflict on the version of React Spring. Let's stop the server, open the yarn lock, and let's search for React Spring. So you will see we have two different versions of React Spring. Why is that? Because inside our package.json, when we did the install, we installed the 9.7.3. But thing is that Dry or Fiber, I'm not sure, are already using the 9.6.1. So we need to use that version. So we don't have two versions of it. To do this, copy the version here and here replace with that version. Then run yarn, so it will reprocess the installation if there are differences, and start again. Now if we try, we add some ingredients and you can see the slice of bread is going nicely on the top. If we add to cart, we have a nice animation between the ingredients. Let's add the real final touch, some shadows on the bottom and the rotation when we added the sandwich to the cart. For the rotation, it's very easy. Add a reference to the sandwich. Here ref is equal to sandwich, const sandwich is equal to use ref. And in a use frame, if it is added to cart, we rotate it. If it's not, we go back to the 0 position. And then below our group, so what we need to do is create another group. We'll add contact shadows, so we can show nice shadows below our sandwich. And the position will be on the parent group. Let's try it again. Now we can see we have nice shadows. If we add to cart, it's rotating nicely. And if we stop, it's going back to its normal position. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a huge pleasure to go back to mobile app development. Let me know in the comments if you want more React Native tutorials with React 3 Fiber. Feel free to hit the like button to make this channel more visible to our awesome developer community. If you want to continue your learning journey, I recommend you watch this video here.